Imagine this. You come home from work, excited to finally own your dream house, only to find a for sale sign stabbed into your front lawn, put there by the very people supposed to protect your neighborhood. But that's not the worst part. The HOA president, a smug busybody named Karen with a clipboard and a vendetta, had forged documents to auction off your property for her own gain. I fought back, uncovered their dirty secrets, and in a twist that left them penniless and homeless, I got their fancy office lease yanked out from under them. Stick around because this revenge tale is wilder than you think. Hey everyone, if you're new here and love these insane HOA horror stories that make you question ever buying a home, smash that like button right now and subscribe with notifications on, so you never miss the drama. We've got more Karens getting karma every week. Let's dive in. It all started on a crisp autumn morning when I pulled up to my new house in Willow Creek Estates, the keys jingling in my hand like a promise of fresh starts. I'd saved for years, scrimped on vacations and takeout, just to afford this 3-bedroom ranch with the wraparound porch and the backyard big enough for the dog I'd always wanted. The moving truck groaned behind me as boxes tumbled out, my life in cardboard chaos spilling onto the driveway. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, some waving tentatively, others sizing me up like I was an intruder in their perfect little bubble. Little did I know, Willow Creek wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a kingdom ruled by the Homeowners Association, a group of self-appointed overlords who enforced rules with the zeal of medieval inquisitors. Their president, Evelyn Hargrove, everyone called her Karen behind her back, though to her face it was always Mrs. Hargrove, lived 2 doors down in a McMansion that screamed old money and zero chill. She was the type who measured your grass with a ruler and fined you for daisies that dared to bloom out of season. I'd heard the whispers during the closing process. Watch out for the HOA, they're sticklers. But I brushed it off. Who could argue with covenants and restrictions when you were finally home? The first week was a whirlwind of unpacking, painting walls in soft blues and grays, and introducing myself with homemade lemon bars that vanished faster than my illusions of peace. My golden retriever Max bounded across the lawn, chasing squirrels while I sipped coffee on the porch, waving at joggers and families heading to the community pool. It felt idyllic, the kind of place where barbecues happened spontaneously and kids rode bikes without a care. But cracks appeared early, subtle at first like hairline fractures in fine china. A notice slipped under my door on day 5. Welcome to Willow Creek. Please ensure all vehicles are parked in garages. Visible cars are a violation. My truck was in the driveway, sure, but it was temporary. Movers still coming. I chuckled, taped it to the fridge as a quirky souvenir, and got back to hanging curtains. Then came the email from the HOA board. A cheery newsletter about upcoming events, buried at the bottom a reminder about annual dues, payable immediately. I logged into their portal, forked over the $500 fee, and thought that was that. Oh, how naive I was. By week 2, the welcomes turned to warnings. A violation letter for my porch light, too bright apparently, blinding passing owls or something absurd. I swapped the bulb, but another arrived days later. Mailbox not regulation blue. I repainted it, hands streaked in cobalt, cursing under my breath as Max watched with his head tilted. Evelyn herself showed up then, unannounced, her sensible pumps clicking on my walkway like Judgment Day heels. She stood at the edge of my property line, arms crossed over a cardigan that looked starched, her silver bob unmoving in the breeze. She didn't step onto my grass, boundaries, you see, but her eyes raked over every inch, cataloging infractions like a hawk spotting field mice. I invited her in for tea, playing the good neighbor, but she declined with a tight smile, launching into a monologue about community standards, how my casual aesthetic threatened property values. I nodded along, biting my tongue, because who wants beef with the welcome wagon on steroids? That night, as I scrolled real estate forums on my phone, nursing a glass of wine, I stumbled onto threads about Willow Creek. HOA from hell, one post read. They find me out of house and home. Another. Karen Hargrove is a tyrant. Lost my job fighting her nonsense. My stomach twisted. Was this hyperbole, or had I bought into a trap? I bookmarked them, telling myself it was just sour grapes from rule breakers. But sleep came fitful, dreams haunted by clipboards chasing me through endless lawns. The next morning brought the first real storm. I woke to a pounding on my door, not Evelyn this time, but a city inspector in a fluorescent vest, clipboard in hand. Yes, another one. Ma'am, we've had a complaint about unpermitted structures. My heart plummeted. What structures? The shed? It came with the house. He pointed to my backyard fence, a simple chain link affair that predated my ownership by decades. Not up to code, he said, scribbling notes. You'll need to replace it within 30 days or face liens. I called the realtor in a panic who swore it was grandfathered in. But the paperwork told a different tale, or rather the lack of it. Turns out the previous owner had let permits lapse and now the HOA had flagged it. Who tipped them off? A quick scan of the inspection report revealed the complainant's address, 142 Oak Lane, Evelyn's house. Rage simmered low in my gut as I paid the inspector off with coffee and apologies. Then speedwalked to the HOA office, a squat brick building at the neighborhood entrance, festooned with banners about pride in our community. Inside, the air smelled of stale coffee and entitlement, volunteers tapping away at ancient computers. I requested records on my property, citing my rights as a homeowner. The clerk, a mousy woman with glasses perched on her nose, hesitated, then printed a stack of papers that hit the counter with a thud. Flipping through, my blood ran cold. There, amid fines for imaginary infractions, $200 here for overgrown shrubs that were barely knee-high, $150 there for noise pollution from Max's occasional bark, were notes about my deed. Scribbled in Evelyn's precise script. Assess viability for resale. Owner non-compliant. Resale. I'd owned it for 14 days. My hands shook as I photocopied everything, the machine whirring like a conspirator. Back home, I pored over the documents under the kitchen lamp, Max snoring at my feet. Buried in the fine print of the HOA bylaws was a clause I'd missed. In cases of egregious violations, the board could initiate foreclosure proceedings to protect community integrity. They'd stacked violations like Jenga blocks, each one teetering toward collapse. And the kicker? A forged addendum to my closing docs, initialed with a wobbly version of my signature, listing Evelyn as a co-signer with power of attorney. How? When? My mind reeled back to closing day. The flurry of papers, the notary who'd rushed me. Had she been in on it? Paranoia crept in as shadows lengthened, the house creaking like it knew secrets I didn't. I couldn't sleep, pacing the living room, phone in hand, debating calls to lawyers at 2 a.m. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, and with it the for sale sign. It appeared like a bad magic trick, hammered into my front yard while I dozed fitfully. Glossy, professional, with a price tag $50,000 above what I'd paid. Pure profit for them, I supposed. Passers-by slowed, gawking, whispering. Max growled at it from the window, hackles up. I yanked it out, splintered wood in my palms, and stormed to the HOA office again, bursting through the door with the audacity of someone whose world was unraveling. The clerk gasped, but Evelyn emerged from a back room cool as Arctic air, her eyes narrowing behind cat-eye glasses. She didn't flinch, just tilted her head as if I'd brought a bake sale instead of war. I thrust the sign at her desk, demanding explanations, but she waved it off like lint, citing Bylaw 7.2 Board Authority in distress sales. Distress? This was theft, plain and audacious. I left fuming, vowing silently this wasn't over. That afternoon, I met with a real estate attorney downtown, his office a sanctuary of leather chairs and legal tomes. He pored over my copies, whistling low. This is bold even for an HOA. Forgery's a felony. We mapped a plan. Challenge the violations, sue for slander of title, expose the sham. But as I drove home, rain sluicing the windshield, doubt gnawed. Willow Creek was their fiefdom. I was the outsider with a mortgage and a mutt. Little did I know the real battle was just igniting, and their empire of rules hid rot that would bring it all crumbling down. The days blurred into a siege of paperwork and paranoia, my once cozy home now a war room strewn with highlighters and legal pads. Mornings started with coffee gone cold as I cross-referenced bylaws against state statutes. Afternoons vanished in calls to county clerks chasing deed histories. Evelyn ramped up the pressure, her minions, board members with titles like Vice Regent of Aesthetics, circling like vultures. A new violation notice daily. Porch swing too swingy, mailbox flag at the wrong angle. Fines piled up, $100 here, $250 there, draining my savings like a slow leak. Max sensed the tension, sticking to my heels, his tail a metronome of worry. Neighbors avoided eye contact now, their waves turning to averted gazes as if my fight was contagious. One evening, old Mr. Jenkins from across the street shuffled over under cover of dusk. his pipe smoke trailing like a peace flag. He muttered about Evelyn's reign of terror, how she'd bankrupted his late wife over a bird feeder dispute. "She's got the board in her pocket," he rasped, glancing over his shoulder. "Watch your back, dear." His words lingered as I bolted the door, the house echoing with isolation. Sleep evaded me, replaced by midnight strategy sessions, laptop glow illuminating maps of the neighborhood's power players. Who funded the HOA? Where did their office rent come from? Idle questions at first, born of insomnia, but they sparked something, a thread to pull. The next morning, fortified by sheer spite, I filed my countersuit at the courthouse, the clerk stamping papers with finality that echoed in my chest. Slander, fraud, emotional distress, the works. Evelyn's response was swift, a cease and desist letter from her lawyer cousin, thick with legalese threatening countersuits for defamation. I laughed bitterly, taping it beside the for sale sign I'd preserved as evidence. But laughter faded when the bank called. Liens from the HOA had frozen my mortgage payments, interest accruing like venom. Panic clawed up my throat. Eviction loomed if I couldn't pay. Desperate, I liquidated a Roth IRA, the penalty a gut punch, but it bought time. Evenings, I'd walk Max under streetlights, eavesdropping on gossip, whispers of board kickbacks, Evelyn's luxury cruises funded by donations. One name surfaced repeatedly: Regency Properties, the firm leasing the HOA office space. A landlord angle? My attorney scoffed at first. Focus on the deed, but I couldn't shake it. Late one night, fueled by energy drinks, I dove into public records online, databases unspooling like digital yarn. Regency was a mid-tier outfit, offices in the city, but their portfolio hid gems. Commercial leases tied to municipal bonds, vulnerable to tenant disputes. The HOA's lease? Ironclad on paper, but footnotes revealed clauses for material breaches. Noise complaints, zoning slips, anything to trigger review. My pulse quickened. This could be leverage, a flank attack while the main battle raged in court. Dawn painted the sky as I emailed my lawyer the findings, collapsing into bed for dreamless hours. Court date arrived, sweltering. The county building a hive of fluorescent hum and anxious shuffles. I sat ramrod straight in the gallery, Evelyn across the aisle in pearls and power suit, her gaze a laser of disdain. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with salt and pepper hair, scanned filings, her brow furrowing at the forgery claims. Expert witnesses paraded, a handwriting analyst confirming the initials weren't mine, a title searcher exposing the addendum's fabrication date, post-closing, stamped in Evelyn's office. Gasps rippled through the room as exhibits projected, emails from board members green-lighting the sale strategy to weed out undesirables. Undesirables. Me. The word stung. But I held my chin high, Max's leash grounding me in the hallway recess. Evelyn's testimony dripped honeyed lies, blaming administrative errors, but cross-examination shredded her. Error in forging a deed, Mrs. Hargrove? The gavel cracked like thunder, granting an injunction halting the sale, ordering HOA funds frozen pending audit. Victory tasted bittersweet. Cheers from supporters I'd rallied online. A ragtag army of ex-residents sharing war stories in comment sections. But Evelyn slithered away unscathed, her smile a promise of retaliation. That night, champagne fizzed unused as new threats arrived. Anonymous letters in my mailbox, leave or else typed on generic paper. Fear coiled tight, but so did resolve. I hired a PI, a grizzled ex-cop named Ray with a knack for dirt digging. His fees eating my emergency fund, but worth every cent. His first report landed like a grenade. Evelyn's side hustle, funneling HOA dues into personal accounts via shell vendors. Invoices for landscaping services to a company registered in her son's name. Work never done. My hands trembled scanning the PDFs, evidence stacking like accusations. But the real dynamite? The office lease. Regency's contract hinged on the HOA maintaining good standing with local authorities. No outstanding complaints, no ethical flags. Ray's contacts uncovered a trail. Noise violations at the office from rowdy board meetings. Unpermitted signage breaching city codes. Petty, but enough to petition for breach. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, a plan crystallizing. Hit them where it hurt. Not just my home, but their headquarters, the nerve center of their tyranny. Calls to city inspectors followed. Anonymous tips scripted carefully. logs of complaints building like a storm front. Evelyn's empire teetered, unaware the ground was shifting. As leaves turned fiery, so did my fight, branches reaching toward a reckoning that would strip them bare. Autumn deepened into a chill that mirrored the frost in my veins. Willow Creek's trees shedding leaves like secrets too heavy to hold. The injunction held, my for sale sign banished to the garage as a trophy. But peace was a mirage. Evelyn's board retaliated with surgical precision. Utility shutoffs disguised as maintenance, my water trickling to drips until I threatened the city. Neighbors split. Some slipped apology casseroles onto my porch. Others joined Evelyn's petition drive to oust me as disruptive. Online, my story exploded. Forums buzzed with HOA threads, tips pouring in from survivors nationwide. One ex-board member's tell-all DM. Check the lease writers. Evelyn bribed the landlord's agent for kickbacks. Bribed? My PI Ray grinned over greasy diner eggs when I relayed it, his notebook flipping to fresh pages. Let's verify. Days blurred in surveillance, tailing Evelyn's Cadillac to lunch spots where she met a slick-suited man from Regency, whispers exchanged over salads. Ray's bugs, legal he swore, captured fragments, double the usual, and we looked the other way on audits. Gold. I compiled dossiers, timelines pinning bribes to lease renewals, each a nail in their coffin. Court reconvened under holiday lights, the building festive while tempers flared. My attorney, sleeves rolled, presented the audit. $47,000 siphoned, trails leading to Evelyn's Cayman accounts. She blanched under the projector's glare, her errors excuse crumbling as Ray testified, voice gravelly with facts. The judge's ruling echoed. Full restitution, board dissolution pending election, and sweetest referral to the DA for fraud probes. Cheers erupted, hugs from allies I'd never met. But Evelyn's parting glare promised inferno. True to form, she escalated. Vandalism hit my yard overnight, tires slashed on my truck, traitor keyed into the hood. Police reports stacked, but evidence thin. Her alibis ironclad, board loyalists circling wagons. Fear turned to fury. I installed cameras, their red lights winking like sentinels. Ray's next drop was seismic. Regency's internal memos leaked via a disgruntled employee, flagging the HOA as high-risk tenant due to mounting complaints. My tips had worked, zoning violations cited, noise logs damning. The lease clause loomed, 60-day notice for breaches, no grace if criminal probes loomed. I drafted the petition myself, nights blurring into caffeine haze, legalese flowing like venom. Submitted anonymously to Regency's legal, CC'd the city attorney for weight. Responses trickled, a terse acknowledgement, then radio silence. Willow Creek simmered. Holiday parties skipped my block, invitations evaporating. But underground resistance brewed. Petitions circulated for new board, signatures from the weary. New Year's Eve, fireworks cracked as my phone buzzed. Regency's eviction notice, public record by dawn. The HOA office faced termination, effective March, homeless busybodies. Evelyn's scream echoed in my imagination as I toasted Max with sparkling cider, the house warm against winter's bite. But she wasn't done. A final gambit brewed, desperate and deranged, pulling me deeper into the abyss where lines blurred between defender and destroyer. Winter gripped Willow Creek in icy fingers, snow blanketing lawns like a shroud over buried grievances. The eviction notice hit like a blizzard, plastered on the HOA office door by dawn patrol, its bold letters freezing volunteers mid-stride. Whispers whipped through coffee clatches. Evelyn's McMansion lights burning late as she rallied the board in panic huddles. My home stood sentinel, cameras capturing shadows slinking past, but no faces yet. Ray's updates came encrypted, his voice hushed over burners. They're scrambling, liquidating assets to fight the lease. Assets? My own, frozen still by lingering liens, though court orders chipped away. I navigated red tape with gritted teeth, mortgage reinstated but credit scarred, a reminder of fragility. Online, the saga trended. YouTube recaps garnered millions, commenters dubbing me the Lease Avenger. Donations trickled, GoFundMe for legal fees, strangers' kindness thawing isolation. But Evelyn's counterstrike landed vicious. A smear campaign. Anonymous blogs painting me as a litigious lunatic, ruining our utopia. Screenshots flooded my inbox. Doctored chats implying I'd bribed officials. Rage boiled. But Ray traced IPs to her son's basement. Evidence for defamation suits stacking. February thawed into slush, mirroring the HOA's meltdown. Board meetings devolved to shouting matches, leaked recordings viral. Evelyn's tirade, "She'll pay for this." Pay? I'd already lost months, sanity fraying at edges. Therapy helped. Sessions unpacking betrayal's weight. Max's head in my lap, a anchor. Regency doubled down. Auditors swarming the office, uncovering more rot. Falsified inspections, vendor ghosts. The DA's probe widened, indictments looming like storm clouds. Evelyn cornered me one dusk, corner of my driveway. Her coat bundled against chill, eyes wild. No words, just a stare promising apocalypse. Then she wheeled away, heels punching snow. That night flames licked my garage, arson accelerant traced to her garden shed. Fire trucks wailed, neighbors gawking as I clutched Max, sirens drowning sobs. Police hauled her in, prints on a gas can damming, her bail posted by desperate loyalists. Court loomed triple fraud, defamation, attempted murder. I testified steady, voice unwavering, the jury's nods fuel. Verdict: guilty across board, sentences stacking to years. The HOA dissolved officially, new elections birthing a humane regime. Rules relaxed, fines refunded. Regency padlocked the office, tumbleweeds rolling through empty halls. Spring bloomed triumphant, my lawn daisies unchecked, Max romping free. Willow Creek exhaled. Barbecues reborn, neighbors toasting my porch swing. I'd won not just my home, but the war, scars badges of survival. But in quiet moments doubts whispered, was vengeance too sweet? No, their fall mended more than mine. As the gavel fell that final time, sealing Evelyn's fate in iron bars and restitution checks, Willow Creek transformed under tentative sun. The old HOA office stood derelict, windows papered against squatters, a monument to hubris. New board meetings convened in parks, agendas emailed sans fine print traps. My deed cleared, liens lifted like lifted curses. I poured energy into healing. Gardens bursting with forbidden wildflowers, community potlucks where stories swapped like recipes. Max aged gracefully, gray muzzle-wise, chasing fewer squirrels but loving deeper. Online, the tale inspired legions, or Terminated, the tyrants trending, survivors sharing victories. Ray retired south, a bottle of scotch my parting gift, his grin eternal. And me? The ranch felt truly mine. Porch light soft now, no signs staking claims. Life, reclaimed, bloomed eternal. If this HOA takedown had you cheering, drop a like, subscribe for more epic property payback stories, and comment below, what's your worst Karen encounter? Hit notifications, we drop drama weekly. See you next time.